Hey everyone, welcome back to Redbanditracing. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we've got something special for you. A subscriber by the name of Robbie reached out to us about his Stampede 4x4. He wanted us to kind of go over this, do some maintenance on it, make sure everything's okay, because he purchased this about 6 years ago from someone on eBay, and that person had already upgraded this thing to a VXL. So they put the VXL system in it. I don't think they put TSM in it. They put some Proline trenchers on it. Aluminum shock caps, a few other things that we'll kind of get into. But he wanted to make sure that all the fluids were okay and everything was basically okay with it. And then what I'm going to do is down in the description, I'm going to list down all the upgrade parts that it should have. That way, if you guys have the same car too, all those will work for you as well. Now you can't put the extreme heavy duty kit on this, and you can't put the clipless body on this one because this one's the old style. This one's pretty old, but this thing is in really, really good shape. It's got some nicks here and there, but that's just because it's been driven a handful of times. But if you guys can see the chassis and the servo, this thing definitely wasn't driven a lot. So this thing is in really, really great shape. What we're going to do, we're going to go over the specs, and then we're going to go ahead and service the front diff, the rear diff, do the shocks, and we're going to take the motor out because I'm wondering how old this Millennium is. If this is a 2-pole or 4-pole. Now, if it's a 2-pole, that's okay. You're going to get a lot of RPM out of the 2-pole, but the newer 4-pole, that's going to give you a lot of torque. And that's kind of what you want, especially if you're off-roading with something like this. So let's go and jump into it and see what's under the hood. All right, so we're going to get started here. I'm going to go and take the tires off. We're not going to get too far into it. I will go ahead and do the shocks, but I will do one of them. I'm not going to show all of them because that's going to take a lot of time. I'm going to do the front diff and rear diff kind of fast. Because I have other videos. If you guys want to know exactly how to do that, I have some Rustler videos and stuff out there. Go check those out. I go into detail on how to take them apart and clean them. But for this one, I am going to take them apart real fast and kind of just show you what's in them and then put them right back in. If there's anything that's a little bit different on this one than on our other models, I will definitely go ahead and show you what's going on. I am going to take the motor out because I want to see if that's a 2-pole or 4-pole. I'm going to take the receiver box out, like I said, because I want to see if that has TSM. And I'm pretty sure it does. I don't know why he would do all this and not put a TSM in it. And we're gonna make sure that this is all ready to go. That way Robbie has a nice rig right here. And if he wants, he can go ahead and join RC Clash and this thing will definitely be ready to roll. All right, so I'm gonna whip these wheels off real quick. Let's go ahead and jump right into the electronics. But the first thing I'm gonna do is make myself a little bit of room. And it does help you guys out. If you guys go ahead and take out the towers, because that's going to give you a little bit more room to take everything else apart. All right, now we got that apart. Let's go ahead and get this receiver cover off and let's go ahead and see what's in there. It's that antenna wire. It's going to be a little easier if I just go ahead and pop the antenna off. I'll pop the antenna off. All right, so let's see what this thing has in there. Yes, and I'll try and zoom in on there. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take the cover off because this thing doesn't look like it was sealed. So we're going to go ahead and seal it for him. All right, pull that cover off. Wow, there's no grease on this. Okay, it's a good thing we're doing this. We're going to have to go through this a lot better because I'm already not liking what I'm seeing here. The original owner installed the new TSM. I'm sorry, the new receiver. So he did install the receiver. It does have TSM, but he didn't seal up the receiver box. And this is what happens when you don't seal up the receiver box. Look at all that dust and debris in there. That's not good for this. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to clean this out. I'm gonna take the receiver out, clean it up, and put it back in. First thing I'm gonna do, let's go ahead and unplug all these. Take this antenna wire, pull that out, pull all these out. I'll show you guys where to put these. But again, if you guys just look in your manual, it actually tells you exactly which ones they go in. So I'm gonna take this, clean that wire off, which the wires look clean. All the contacts look okay, but I do not like how much debris is in there. So let's go ahead and get our flat screwdriver. Slowly coming up. I can see the tape coming up. There we go. Got it. Looks like he used some pretty strong tape there. There we go. Cut that off. All right, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over here, I'm gonna grab my contact cleaner. Take my contact cleaner and I'm gonna clean this stuff off, and then I'm gonna blow this out. Actually, you know what? I don't see too much stuff in there. I don't see too much in there. I kind of zoomed in on a little bit. I'm just gonna make sure this is cleaned off. Normally, if there was a lot of stuff in there, I would go ahead and spray it down with a contact cleaner, which is safe on this. It's safe on electronics. You just wanna make sure it's completely dry before you turn anything on and install anything. As far as the box goes, let me take this seal off. Well, this is the first one where the seal is really on there. Normally this seal pops right off. Carefully take a pick, get that off. All right, I'm gonna go spray this down, and all you gotta do is this. I'll just do it right here so you guys can see. That's all you're doing, spray it down. Make sure you get in there where the seal goes. There you go. You want that really, really clean. Now I'm going to take the receiver box and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put this aside. I'm going to clean that up. All right, now let's go clean the other side. That's good. Now I still don't have any dielectric grease with me. There's no problem in using grease. And if you're going to use grease, I would suggest like a marine grease because that'll help repel any kind of water. And it's okay to use. I've seen guys also on their diff case, which is a great idea. I'll show you. When you take your diff case off, right on the edges of your diff case, you can put a little bit of grease also. So when you put it in, it'll squish that little bit of the grease out and it keeps water and debris from getting in. So it's actually a really good idea, as long as you clean it up, because otherwise you're gonna have a lot of dirt and stuff stick to it and it's just gonna make a bigger mess. I'm gonna get this cover clean real quick. And that's all it takes. You don't need to use a lot of it. It actually cleans pretty quick. Now that's really nice and clean. So that's good to go. Now we can go ahead and put it back on. This is the Gorilla Tape, so I'm not gonna use a whole lot. That's probably still a lot, but it's definitely gonna go nowhere. Yeah, I'm gonna trim a little bit of it off because it's a little bit too big. Now if you want, you can clean this with alcohol to help it stick, but I'm telling you, this Gorilla Tape, it's gonna stick no matter what. If you find your double-sided tape not sticking, definitely clean this with alcohol, any kind of rubbing alcohol, and that'll help a lot. All right, pull that off just like that. Now, before we put this in, what you're gonna wanna do is look at your cover. So this is how the cover goes. So what we're gonna wanna do, this one actually doesn't have the access hole. It does have the light though. If you guys can see where the light is and the light on the receiver, you're gonna wanna make sure those are lined up. So this is gonna be actually further to the right. So we're gonna put it in the corner. All right, so that's on. Put it right there. And we're gonna test it real quick. Yep, that's good. You want to make sure that the cover fits back on and the receiver is actually not stopping the cover from going on. Actually, you know what? That could have been moved up a little bit, but as you can see, there's not much that room. They didn't really line the lights up, but you will be able to see the light inside. I'm actually really picky on how I do certain things with my cars. So I'm going to move this up a little bit. That was going to bother me. I'm going to go to bed tonight and I'm going to be thinking about that. I'm going to put it more towards the middle. That way it raises it up just a little bit. I'm not putting a lot of force on it. It raises up just a little bit. That's where I want it, right there. That way all the wires can tuck in right on the side. All right, so now let's go ahead and put our seal on. Now we're going to run all the wires. All right, now as far as wiring goes, we're going to take the speed control and it's going to go right there in channel 2. 2 channel 1s and then 2, 3, 4 and up. It's going to go in channel 2. Ground is in the back. It's pretty obvious because these connectors have a little slot right there. So they line up on it just fine. So don't force it. All right, now let's go ahead and get the servo in. Just turn that around and that's going to go on channel 1, which is right below 2. Doesn't matter which one you put it in. That extra channel is for an additional servo. Let's say like the eRevo 2.0 that's got dual servos. Those are going to go in channel 1 and 1. And the antenna is going to go out like that. We're gonna take his antenna. He is gonna have to replace the cap because it is missing the cap. Now, this is already too long. Because this has TSM, the wire is actually not that long. So if you wanted to, you could actually cut this down a little bit because you don't need this much. Typically the VXLs, they don't have the long antennas, so you can kind of hide it under the body. So you know what, that's probably what I'll go ahead and do for him. All right, so there's the tip. Now, here's another tip. These wires, you do not want to bend them over and cap them. You do not want to bend these. You don't want to cut these. If you do that, you will ruin it. So do not bend those. Make sure that they're hidden inside and then cap it. All right, let's go to the set screw. I'll put it right in that hole right there. All right, so that's actually a lot better. Now all he's got to do is find a cap. If I had one, I would just put it on for him, but I don't have one. You can get that anywhere. Definitely local hobby shop will definitely have those. Just cap it and be good. All right, now let's go ahead and put our cover on. All right, so now let's get our grease, which I am using, it's Dynamite grease, but it is marine grease. Dielectric grease would be great too. They all do the same thing. Take my cap. So, I mean, it's a good thing that the guy who had this before, Robbie did, he didn't run it through water. If he would have ran this thing through water, he probably would have ruined the electronics. He probably would have ruined the receiver. Everything else probably would have been just fine. All right, got that tight. Well, now it's all ready to go. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I want to pull this motor out because I kind of want to take a look at it. So I'm going to pull this out real quick. It's really simple. It's just like any other ones. All I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this one off, pull the cap off, pull this one out, and then pull this one at the bottom. That's on the wires. I'm going to pull out real quick. This is, it does say the 3351R. Here we go. Okay, let's pop it off real quick. I want to see what's in there. Now be careful taking this off because it does have shims. Yeah, this actually looks really clean. Yeah, that actually looks pretty clean. I'm not going to take it all the way out. I don't think I need to. But it's hard to tell. This feels like it's a two-pole. Feels like a two-pole. But I'm not going to take it apart because I don't want to lose any shims, and this thing doesn't need to be serviced. So I'm not going to mess with it. I don't know. It feels like it could be a 4. You guys tell me. I'm going to run it once we're all done. Just make sure everything's good. You guys tell me what you think. It just feels like it's a 2-pole just because it's really quiet. Especially when it's in the car, it's very quiet. So I'm not too worried about this. Let's go and throw this back in. All right, got that back together. Let's go ahead and remount it. If you guys want to know how to rebuild this, I did put a video out on how to rebuild a Millennium 3500. Go check that out. It's not a hard repair. That one's actually fairly simple. And it's the same on that one to rebuild as it is the 540X. So I got my long driver here because this one can be kind of a pain to put in. Make sure we get the mesh nice and good. Everything else looks good. I was taking a look at that spur gear in there. Spur gear looks good. It is plastic, it looks like, but that's okay. I mean, there's no need to upgrade it until there's a need to. All right, so let's go put that down. Well, that kind of just fell into place. Let's see where we're at. Get that tight. Wow, guys, I didn't even have to mess with that one a whole lot. I got that nice and tight. Perfect. All right, so we got that in. Let's go ahead and put our cover back on, get everything tied back up, and we'll jump right into the shocks. I'm not going to take off the center cover for the center drive shaft. I'm going to let him make that decision. I like to take these off because if rocks get caught in there, they're just going to grind away at the center drive shaft, and it'll eventually just make a ton of noise until it clears out. I would remove this because that can cause a problem. All right, so we got the shocks out. Let's go ahead and get a paper towel. All right, so these, I mean, they're pretty weak. I mean, they're not too bad, but they're not very strong. So we're going to fix that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these off, keep everything organized, keep your front and rear separated. And I mean, you're going to know which ones are which because their fronts are shorter than the rear. Now, these come stock with, I believe, 30 weight. So we're not going to keep 30 weight in it. We're going to up it a little bit because he's going to want to be taking this thing off-road. So we're going to make sure it can handle off-road. You do want to go ahead and upgrade these. I would definitely put the GTRs in. A lot more performance when you're going off-road. But He's got the GTR, he's got the regular Ultra Shocks right here, so we're just gonna go with these. So let's go ahead and get these cleaned up, and let's go and change the weight. I'm gonna do one of them and then do the rest off camera. That way it just saves a little bit of time. If you guys wanna know this, also go check out one of our videos. We show you guys how to do this. Gonna take this off real quick. Let's see how dirty the fluid is. Okay, make sure you're really careful with the caps. Okay, it is a little bit low. They are definitely low. As far as the fluid goes, I don't know if you guys can see that. That fluid is clear, so this definitely wasn't driven very much. All right, so we got that. Let's take a look at the piston. Okay, everything looks good. These shocks are already, you know, pretty weak as it is. Oh, this one's a little bit dirty. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do that. I'm gonna do this to each one. I went ahead and cleaned up the seals just to make sure that there was no debris on them. I'm gonna go get my fluid ready. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put 50 weight in this. Now, I don't wanna go anything above 50 weight in an Ultra Shock because the thicker weight that you go, the more risk you run of bending a shock rod, because the car is gonna hit the ground faster than the shock compress if you got thicker weight in there, and it's gonna cause the rod to bend. So you want it to be able to travel as fast as it's landing. You just wanna make sure it's stiff. And you don't wanna make sure it's too stiff. Now, the best thing you could do for this is I would probably stick with 50 weight, but you can always up the spring rate. You can always get stiffer springs, and that'll definitely help. Honestly, I probably wouldn't, but if you're not gonna off-road this a lot and you're just gonna, you know, play around in the yard or not jump a ramp, these are gonna be just fine. If you're gonna jump a ramp and you kind of wanna go a little harder on it, go off-road, I would put the GTRs on it. You're gonna get much better performance. And I'm gonna fill it about 3/4 full. I'm gonna go up and down while I twist. That way I can work the air out. All right, now I'm gonna put this one aside, find a place to put it. I might just use these tires right here. Kind of just put them in the tire like that. I'm gonna put that aside. I'm gonna do the rest and come back. All right, so I let those sit for about 5 minutes, and it looks like there's no air. That's good. Now when you tighten these, don't crank them. That's all you need. Don't crank them because you'll run the risk of tearing the seal. Make sure the bottom one's tight. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the rest of them, and then we're gonna clean them up. All right, so I got those all done. So now what we're gonna do is let's go ahead and clean them up real quick. What that's gonna do is that's gonna make sure there's no excess oil that's on the shock. So when you go drive it for the first time, it's not collecting all kinds of dirt to the shock. If you guys have ever done your shocks, you guys know what I'm talking about. That is definitely a stiffer spring. That is a lot better. We got all the shocks done. I went ahead and took the spacers out of the front because they're much stiffer. It's not gonna need them. I think those are good how they are, depending on how he goes and drives it. If he needs a little bit stiffer, I would definitely go ahead and do it. I'm gonna put it like this right now, just so I can show you, because I wanna make sure you guys know, you guys put these back on. These are the screws that go in it. What you're gonna do is you're gonna put that one through the hole, and make sure you go ahead and put on that little washer right there. That's supposed to go on the back. Make sure you guys put that on. It does make a difference on how it travels. Not just travels, but it's gonna move a little bit, and that's gonna let it move freely. That way the back of the screw is not rubbing on the tower. So just make sure you put that on. It's gonna help a little bit. So I'm gonna zip these on, and we'll go ahead and move on to servicing the diffs. There you go, pull that right off. Take this bar off. We're gonna get this cleaned up. These two out right here. I'm gonna take the set screws out. You should be able to slide the cover off. That actually looks pretty clean. That's not bad. Take the assembly out, and the gears actually look pretty good. All right, it's not bad. Let's look inside. You guys can see inside. It actually looks pretty clean. Nothing broken, no dirt. So what we're gonna do here is, I'm not gonna have to do a whole lot of cleaning. I'm just gonna go ahead and smear some of the grease out the bottom. These actually feel pretty good, so double checking this one. This one had a little bit on it. All right, so those are good. Now let's go ahead and clean this off. Maybe put like 30,000 weight in there. Yeah, see, this has not been serviced. And if it was, I'm trying to see if this is grease or what this is. No, someone did put fluid in it. Okay, they did put fluid in it, which is fine. That's exactly what I was gonna do anyways. But it's very, very low on fluid. So it's a good thing that this wasn't driven a whole lot, because that could have prematurely worn this out. The teeth don't look bad, so I'm not worried about the teeth. We want to put that aside. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean this housing out real good. All right, now we're gonna take the spider gears here, spread them out like that. I'm gonna drop them right in there, right in those two slots. We got our 30,000 weight right here. This is actually TLR, Team Lucy Racing, which will work just fine. All right, you're gonna fill it nice to the top. Because what that's gonna do is that's gonna work its way down. You're gonna turn the gears slowly and make sure they're pushed down, because as you turn them, they're gonna wanna turn out. They're gonna wanna clam out. So make sure it's in there. See how all that fluid went to the bottom? All right, so now we're gonna put a little more in. Where you want the fluid is on this pin right here that holds the spider gears. You want it at the level of the pin. I call them like little dowels because they fit right in to the case right there, and it helps align it. So we're gonna make sure those are lined up. Oh, there we go. See, that went in. It wasn't in before. Now it's in because it locks. All right, I'm not doing by hand. Take the car right there. And drop that in just like that. Take our case, slide our case in. Now, what I was talking about earlier about sealing it, what you could do, and I kind of learned this trick. I only have done it a few times. You can always take a little bit of your grease and really lightly put on the sides of the housing right there, right here. And what that's gonna do is when you put this cover on and press that cover in and screw it down, that's also gonna keep water from getting in the sides. That's actually a pretty good idea. It's gonna repel a lot of water. Just make sure that after you do it, I would probably really wipe it down, because again, that's just gonna collect a lot of debris. And what I mean by that is dirt, rocks, you name it, it's gonna stick to it. So if you guys do that, it's a great idea. Just make sure that you guys really clean it. Now let's go ahead and do the front. So if you take those off, 3 at the bottom, 2 at the top, you should be able to slide that out as one piece. The case out, there we go. So the housing, again, wasn't dirty, so I went ahead and cleaned it anyways. So I'm gonna make sure I get the dirt off the sides here so it doesn't go inside. From the factory, this is 30,000. That's bone empty, guys. Now, I've said this in all my videos, and I'll keep saying it, and this is nothing on Robbie. This is just in general. Anytime you get a new RC car, check your fluids. You have to check your fluids, because if he would have ran this, he probably would have burned out the diff. There was almost no fluid in this. Doesn't look like it was leaking, it just looks like it was empty. The reason why I say that is because every car that we've ever bought, the fluid's been damn near empty. So as you guys can see, this really doesn't take a lot of time. I'm taking more time just to show you guys, but if I was doing this off camera, it'll take less than 10 minutes to do front, and then about the same amount of time to do the rear. So put that in there. Everything looks good. So we're gonna take that off. Take that. Now what we're gonna do here real quick is I'm gonna go ahead and throw the shock towers back on, not the shock towers, but the body adapters back on, and then we're gonna check this thing out. All right, I'm gonna try and angle the camera a little bit, but as you can see, the back tires normally go inwards, which is fine. That helps to keep the car to track straight. Now, as far as the front goes, I'm trying to see the front, you can see that those are definitely off. So now we're gonna turn TSM off, make sure it's straight. Look how bad that one is. That's a little better. I'm gonna go a little bit out though. Just a little bit. Oh, that's actually good right there. So what you guys want to do is when you set your toe up, push down a little bit. When you push down, you don't want the wheels buckled inwards. You want to be able to push down a little bit and they're still somewhat straight. Now, the best thing that you're going to be able to do for this car is put the camber links in so you can actually adjust the camber, because sometimes you can do a little bit fine tuning with that, and it really does help. And as you guys can see, we lined up that receiver just right, because you can see the green light right there. It's nice and lined up. So now that we got that done, wheels are nice and straight. I wonder if we should go ahead and calibrate the throttle, because I'm pretty sure that hasn't been done in a long time since the motor was put in. So let's go ahead and doing that. So let's go ahead and shut it off. Shut the remote off. We'll turn the remote back on. And what we're going to do is we're going to hold the set button to turn it on. Not the set button. We're going to hold the easy button, turn it on. Once that light flashes red once, we're going to release. See how it flashed? Gonna blink once, full throttle. Blink twice, full reverse. Blink green, neutral. Now, we calibrated the throttle. So now the throttle is calibrated, just in case something was wrong. Maybe it's been 6 months to a year and the car feels a little bit sluggish. Calibrate the throttle, you're gonna notice a huge difference. Let's go check it out now. All right, it's not bad for a 2S. Ooh, there you go. Woo, a little bicycle. It definitely has a low pinion in it, so if you want to get a little bit more speed out of it, I would probably go ahead and raise that pinion up. That looks like it could be a 9-tooth. So you could probably benefit from putting maybe a 12 or a 13 in there, get a little more speed out of it. But this is running on a 2S. So I can get a bicycle. Oh, a little bicycle. All right, well, there we go. We went ahead and serviced the front diff, the rear diff. We checked out the receiver. Go ahead and repair that. Put a little bit of grease on there to keep the water out. We went ahead and checked the motor out. Again, I want to say that that's a 4-pole. But it sounds awfully quiet. It might be a 2. It's really hard for me to tell. All of ours are 4-pole, even the Bandits. But this one, if this was upgraded, let's say 6 years ago, it had to be. This has got to be a 2-pole. If this was 6 years ago when he purchased it and it was already upgraded, I bet you that's a 2-pole, because all of the new ones now are all 4. So that's probably a 2-pole. The pinion, that's got to be like a 9-tooth. It's pretty small. I bet you if you upgrade it to maybe a 13-tooth, he'll definitely get a little more speed out of it. So I would definitely go to a 13. Don't go too high, especially on the Millennium. It is known to overheat if you put too high of a gear in it and you're just bashing around. So I would just probably go up a couple teeth, either 12 or 13, I think would be perfect for this. Everything's good. Got everything cleaned up. Shocks are really good. Suspension feels really nice now. Didn't move anything else around. Didn't really clean it up any. It's great. This thing's ready to rock and roll. It's a good thing that he brought it to us. I'm really glad that he did that, because there was no fluid in the front of the rear. So that could have definitely prematurely worn this out. So now that those are nice and serviced, even the shocks. Shocks had one that was a little bit low. The rest were pretty decent. So the shocks were okay. He's gonna replace those anyways. Yeah, this was really fun. I really like working on this old stuff. It's really fun to see these cars still out, because this is such an icon. The Stampede is just such a classic, and I love the 4x4 body style on this one. I like the BL2S on it, you know, with the Haas body style, but these old ones are just so nice. I mean, I know the body should have came down further to kind of, you know, cover up the battery a little bit. It should have came down a little bit further, but I like how it looks raised. It looks like a true monster truck. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Everything that I did to this will be down in the description, all the parts, the fluids. I'm also gonna put some upgrades as far as the camber links go, the shocks, and maybe a different set of tire options for it. And they don't offer the extreme heavy duty kit on this, but I will put down some of the part numbers for the RPM arms and hubs, because that would be a big upgrade for this. That'll definitely beef this up a little bit. Yeah, guys, give a shout out to him, Robbie. Hopefully, guys, he'll be in the Clash. Tell me down below, you guys want him in the Clash? I think he would really enjoy it. This is the kind of stuff that we're looking for. Anyone who just wants to enjoy the hobby and enjoy some racing and enjoy some fun. So yeah, hope you guys like this video. Like and subscribe. See you guys on the next one.